guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be another college video about George Mason specifically. So I decided I wanted to make a video about the academic life at George Mason University, because a lot of people talk about, the social stuff and the dorms and the food, but I want to talk about like what my experience has been like with getting my education, because that's what we're going to college for. So I searched up some questions that I could answer about George Mason specifically. So one of the questions that I saw was, how large are the classes? So classes can range from a normal classroom, so like 20-30 students, to an entire lecture class, which is about 300 students. Next question, are classes more lecture-based or discussion-based? Off of my personal experience, and I don't even think this has anything to do with the type of major you have, I feel like a lot of my classes have been discussion-based, which for someone like me who's, shy and reserved, I like to be able to just come to class, sit down, take out my laptop, take my notes, listen, and then leave. But a lot of my classes do not operate that way. And I've even been in like bigger classes where professors they want to talk, they want to interact with students. They don't want to just stand up there and give a lecture. They want you to talk to them. They want you to show that you know the material. A lot of professors actually expect you to come into class kind of already knowing where the class is going to go, which I'm not really used to, especially if it's a class that requires a textbook. They expect that you have read the chapter before coming into class, so you're ready and prepared to answer questions if presented, with them. So I've definitely noticed that a lot of my professors are very like discussion based. They want you to talk. A lot of them will kind of veer away from the textbook, and they'll try to bring in real world examples that are happening right now and tied into the class. A big example I have for this too is when I took African American Studies. When I took African American Studies, I was expecting it to be a class where I learned about African American like history and people who have made history. I mean, obviously we know like the major people like Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman. I was expecting to really dive deep into the history and the history behind like cultures and stuff like that in this class. But then it kind of turned more into like a class that was about Black issues and what a lot of Black people go through nowadays, like with police brutality and discrimination and racism. And it really became like a discussion based class, and there was very little like memorization and like stuff like that. So keep that in mind. If you're on the shy side, be prepared to kind of be taken out of your comfort zone and challenged with certain topics. And so another question that I saw is, okay, how many of the classes are taught by a professor and how many are taught by a teaching assistant? I haven't had a lot of experience with teaching assistants. My freshman year, I did a little bit. I had a teaching assistant in math. I had calculus and history, but they weren't teaching at all. They literally were just there to assist, and sometimes they just would sit there unless they were asked by the professor to go around and like do stuff. But I've never had a class that was taught by a teaching assistant unless it was a lab. I've had labs where the teaching assistant to the main professor would teach the lab or whatever. But I haven't really had a lot of experience with teaching assistants, just a professor, if anyone was curious. So, let's see. So how much freedom do freshmen have in choosing their courses? They have a lot of freedom, actually. I got to choose my classes at orientation. That's why it's very, very crucial that you go to orientation, because that is where you will be signing up for classes. And they also split it, I think, too. So some people choose their classes on the first day, I think, because the orientation is 2 days. So, the first day they'll have like people of certain majors choosing, and then the second day they'll have the other half. So very, very crucial that you go to orientation, but you have complete control over what you want your schedule to be like. Even if you go into orientation with one major, but you have intentions on changing your major, you can do that as well, and they'll have people there to assist you in the right direction. So let's see. Our professors very accessible outside of class. All of my professors are super accessible outside of class. I stay emailing my professors. Excuse me. I stay emailing my professors when I have a question or I'm curious about something. I normally can reach my professors through email at like any time of the day, any time of the week. I've had a lot of professors give us their personal phone numbers, like to call them, like, hey, like I had a question. Like, they are very, very personable. I've had professors that go by their first name. They don't want you to call them professor, whatever. Like, they want you to call them by their first name. Like, they're very, very personable and easy to talk to and easy to access if you have any questions. And I also recommend going to office hours, especially if it's for a class that you know is going to be difficult and that you're going to struggle in. Please make sure you go to office hours. Like, do it. Like, for calculus, I went to office hours a lot. I went to office hours almost every single Friday, and it really did help me in the end, because not only did it help me better understand calculus, but it shows the teacher that you care and they keep that in mind. Like, let me tell you, my teacher came in clutch. Like, because at the end of the semester, so I took a year-long calculus class, because taking calculus in one semester is just, it's hard. Like, unless you just get it, like, it's extremely difficult. It's way too fast. Like, when I took calculus for a year, each topic was taught within like a week, and even that was kind of fast. But when you're taking it in a semester, you're learning 2 or 3 topics a day. Like, it is super intense. So I highly recommend, if you take calculus and you struggle with math, to take the year-long option if you're going to George Mason. I don't know what they do at other colleges, but I did the same thing in high school too. I took AP Calc and I had it for the entire year and not just a semester. So I do recommend that. But yeah, my professor, I took an exam at the end of the year and I wasn't doing so hot on the exams, and I needed a 70 on this exam to pass just to the second part of calculus, like that spring semester. And I was able, so you don't really get to see, you don't get your final exams back normally, but because I had that teacher for a year, spring semester she gave us back our old exam, because that second semester you were going to be tested on things from first semester and that current semester. So she ended up giving us back our final exams from the fall semester, and I actually had got a 69. I had actually failed, and she like +1 me a point. So like, had it not been for her just giving me that point, I would have failed calculus and I would have had to like wait, and it would have been a mess. So definitely build a relationship with your professors. It's kind of hard in a lecture class, and I feel like in bigger lecture hall classes it's not that necessary, because normally with those classes you don't have a lot of interaction with your professors anyway, and the chances of them remembering you is slim because there's so many people. But yeah, definitely in the smaller classes, try to build that relationship with your professor. Let me see. Are students usually able to make their first choice courses? That depends. Like, honestly, picking courses is kind of the same. It's kind of the same process as picking housing. It's based on seniority. So the more credits you have, the longer you've been there, the better the chance you have at choosing your classes like before everybody else. Freshmen always go last, and seniors always go first. So, but I've never had an issue with choosing the classes that I needed. I think the issue is getting a class that fits your personal schedule. So like, it's not so much not getting the class that you need, it's more so the time in the day that you want, because relatively speaking, most students would probably want to take certain classes like late morning, early afternoon. So those are the ones that get snatched up quick, and then you're kind of left with the 7 in the morning, 7 at night, which I got screwed over with that this semester. I I have 2 night classes this semester, and in the beginning it was really hard. Even now it's still kind of hard, like getting to those night classes, because they're both 3 hours long too, and it's a mess. But yeah, it's more so getting the class at the time that you want, not necessarily the class itself. And let me see, last question. Are finals more exam based or project essay based? That all depends on the class, and sometimes it depends on your major as well. My roommate is a communications major, so all they really have to do is talk. Like, all the classes that she has this semester, she has no finals, no midterms. You're just talking. Like, and then with me, I switched my major several times, but with my major, I do have exams, because the only way to really measure your success in that class is, with an exam. But I definitely have had classes where the final was just a group project. That was like my whole first semester, because I had communications, I had a ton of business classes, and in business you have to present a lot in front of other people. So I had a lot of presentations at the end of my semester, both solo and with a big group, and the number of exams that I had was very small. So yeah, hopefully these questions helped you guys get a sense of what the academic life at George Mason is. I've been fortunate enough to get amazing professors my entire time at being at George Mason. Now sometimes you do get crappy teachers. Again, I'm just lucky that I haven't had a crappy teacher. I have friends that have had crappy professors, and their professors kind of determined if they were going to pass. They had one professor for one class, and because that professor was not willing to work with them and didn't explain stuff well, they ended up failing. They took it again with a better professor and they got an A. So sometimes the professor does make the class, but again, I'm fortunate enough that I've had amazing professors. I do highly recommend using the website Rate My Professors, because that is where I look up all the professors that I sign up for. And sometimes I will kind of I try to prioritize getting a good professor. So if that means that the best professor teaches at 9 in the morning, I'm going with the 9 a.m. Point blank, because I care about my grades, and I care about having a good professor, and I actually care about learning about the material that's being taught. So I highly recommend using that website to look up your professors if you can. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any more questions about the academic life at George Mason University. And yeah, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.